eyes wide open.
Everyone who drives Route 66 hears the same warning. There's a place you don't stop, not because it's dangerous. Because if you do, the road doesn't forget you.
Don't forget to subscribe, and let's take a look.
Twin Arrows used to be a roadside landmark. Two massive arrows pointing at nothing. A trading post where drivers stretched their legs, bought souvenirs, took photos. Then it shut down. Locals say it didn't close. It was left behind. Truckers claim that if you stop there after midnight, your car will stall just for a second. Long enough for the silence to settle. Long enough to notice something wrong. The air feels crowded. No animals. No wind. Just the sound of your own engine ticking as it cools. That's when people notice the footprints. Not coming from the building, but circling their car. Phone signals die. Dash cams glitch. And some drivers swear they hear doors opening. Not theirs. Somewhere just beyond the headlights. The rule is simple. If your car turns off on its own, don't step out. The ones who break the rule say the road looks different when they leave. Straighter, longer. Like it's gently correcting itself. Months later, they start noticing something else. Their mileage doesn't add up. Mirrors feel wrong. And sometimes, just before sleep, they hear gravel crunching outside their bedroom window, as if someone followed them home. So if you ever drive Route 66 and your car stalls near Twin Arrows, stay inside. Don't look around. Don't check your mirrors. Because the road doesn't trap you there. It just memorizes you, so it knows exactly where to find you next time.
How many of you guys know about Highway 591? I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, 591, between Shiprock and Gallup, New Mexico. It used to be called 666, but they had to change it because of all the odd occurrences that would happen out there. I hate driving out that road. One, it's very bumpy. Two, most of the time I drive it at night, anytime that I've gotten to drive it. And I've seen some odd things out there. I've seen a black deer just standing right in the middle of the road. Come up on it and just went right through it. So yeah, that was a weird one. And also there's a lot of people, at least I think there are people walking down the side of the empty highway. Just for miles, there's nothing.
People don't just drive Route 66. Some of them disappear. Drivers crossing the deserts of Arizona and New Mexico report glowing lights hovering just above the asphalt, sometimes following their cars for miles. For decades, travelers have told the same story. A hitchhiker on the side of the road. They pull over, say a few words, and before the next town, they look over, and the seat is empty. And along isolated stretches of highway, abandoned cars are found on the shoulder, keys still inside, sometimes even the engine running. But the driver is never found. Route 66 is still open tonight, and someone is driving it right now, and maybe they're not alone.
There's a stretch of highway through Oklahoma and into the Texas Panhandle where people didn't disappear slowly. They started disappearing after the road arrived. Before interstates, this was Route 66, the mother road. Towns were closer. Strangers were noticed. Movement had limits. Missing people were reported quickly. Life felt contained. Then I-40 replaced it. Travel sped up. Motel strips appeared along the roadside. Truck stops multiplied. Anonymous movement became normal. Drivers, travelers, and strangers flowed across the state in ways no one had seen before. Within years, investigators began noticing patterns. Bodies and missing persons started appearing near the same rural exits, frontage roads, and isolated on-ramps. Different victims, different decades, but the same corridor. A silent witness to every tragedy. Some were found beside running vehicles, some last seen at truck stops. Some were never identified at all. Many of those cases remain open, and the numbers are staggering. Analysts have mapped hundreds of murder victims along highways like I-40, and estimates suggest up to 850 people have been killed along U.S. interstates over the last few decades, with many still unsolved. The highway didn't create killers. It created places where people could vanish, spaces where anonymity became safety for some and a trap for others. Some roads don't just move people, they keep them.
For nearly 70 years, the traffic on this highway was the lifeblood of countless motels, diners, and roadside attractions. Sadly, the Mother Road, as it came to be known, was decommissioned in 1985.
Believe that Route 66 amplifies paranormal activity. So there are some strange superstitions that go along with Route 66. Never drive the same stretch of road at night twice. Some travelers carry talismans to avoid bad luck zones, and it's believed that Route 66 amplifies paranormal activity. Locals say you should never stop at abandoned service stations at night, and urban legends link the road to ancient Native American burial paths. Weird weather, sudden temperature drops, sometimes even 20 degrees occur without reason. Fog banks roll in and then vanish a few minutes later. Flash storms appear. Some report hearing thunder without any storms in sight. And the Eureka stretch has unexplained lightning strikes during dry spells. And also there's repeated stories of disappearing hitchhikers. A woman and then she vanishes mid-ride. Usually described in 1940s era clothing. One famous report places the ghost near Galena, Kansas, and some claim she asked for a ride to town that no longer exists. Descriptions of her are uncannily consistent across decades. And then there's a lot of cursed landmarks along the way. Some diners were built over ancient burial grounds. The Claps Bridge in Oklahoma is said to be cursed. Missouri rest stop was torn down due to persistent accidents, and tales of buried artifacts, disturbing spirits persist near Eureka. Which is, I mean, the funny thing is we looked up a little bit of Eureka. Locals share firsthand stories of haunted woods nearby. And the Visitor Center sells regional books on hauntings and legends. And some visitors report interference with cell phones and GPS. So, strange light phenomenon. Route 66, drivers report orbs floating beside the car. Some lights chase cars before vanishing at the state line. And Missouri stretch has higher than normal sightings. Bright flashes occur in clear skies, no planes, no storms, and skeptics blame reflections. Believers think otherwise. And lastly, disembodied voices on the road. Some drivers hear their names called while driving alone. Whispering voices have been recorded near rest areas, and children's laughter is often heard in empty playgrounds. The Visitor Center staff has reported hearing music from the closed exhibits, and EVP sessions near Eureka often yield surprisingly clear results.
Okay, so I went farther. I'm down in here. You can hear the traffic on I-40, but this is like some type of old Route 66 death cave. But look at it, it's like this cave canyon. I'm literally the only one here. I don't even know if I'm supposed to be here, if this is private land, but it feels very heavy. There's a very heavy energy here. I'm in between Flagstaff and Albuquerque, almost to Winslow. I'm not going to stay here long because my car is parked way up on the side of the road, and I am on this edge, and it's a very high energy, high dark energy place. There's a lot of darkness here. Yeah, this once was something not light, something dark, for sure.
There's a road in San Bernardino that many drivers refuse to take after dark. A stretch of highway where headlights flicker, radios cut to static. This is the old San Bernardino Highway, a road said to be haunted by restless spirits and tragedies long forgotten. This road, once a main route for travelers, has a dark past. According to legend, it was built over ancient land, ground that some believe was cursed long before a pavement was ever laid. Stories tell of Native American spirits wandering the roadside, forever tied to the land where violent clashes once took place. Drivers have reported chilling encounters, phantom hitchhikers appearing in the rearview mirror, only to disappear moments later. Some claim to have seen a woman in white walking along the roadside. Even stranger, Some cars have mysteriously stalled on certain stretches of the road. Electronics flicker, engines refuse to start, and an eerie silence settles in. A few claim that if you listen closely, you can hear voices, whispers carried by the wind, as if the road itself is trying to speak. Is the old San Bernardino Highway haunted, or are these stories just tricks of the mind? Many have tried to explain the strange occurrences, but one thing is certain. Those who travel this road at night never forget it.
I've never felt panic like it. Like, panic has never taken over my body like that. There's a huge TikTok creator on here. She's actually from the UK, and she's just posted a video telling people that she did the drive from LA to Vegas and stopped halfway to go to a restaurant. It was in broad daylight. It was at a location that everyone stops on Route 66, because from the drive from LA to Vegas there is just one straight road, and she stopped there, came out of the restaurant, broad daylight. Her car was completely smashed up, all her belongings were gone, and apparently no one saw anything, honestly. And then I was doing some digging, and it was the exact same place that me and my sister almost got split up, and my sister was going to be left there. And I feel like I'm now going to talk to you about it, because at the time it was very traumatic. This was only like a couple of weeks ago when my sister and I were in LA, and we were doing the road trip from LA to Vegas. So we decided to get a bus from LA to Vegas, right? It was a coach, so it was a Greyhound bus. So we got on the bus, that was fine. The bus drove for a few hours. There was maybe like 10 people on the bus. It was quite quiet, and the bus stopped halfway, and the place it stops is in the middle of nowhere, okay? And I now realise it's the same place that this creator had her car smashed up and everything stolen from. It is in the middle of nowhere. You are really in the middle of the desert, and there's maybe like a few things around. There's like a gas station, a Starbucks, a McDonald's, but that is it for miles. So the coach stopped at this place halfway through the drive, and we got off the bus, and as we're getting off the bus driver says, you guys need to be back for 3 o'clock. That's when I'm leaving. So we had like half an hour to go and maybe use the toilet, get something to eat, and then come back, and the bus was going to leave at 3. That's fine. So me and my sister, we walk along to the coffee shop, and we are waiting on our coffees. My sister gets her coffee, and I'm still waiting on my coffee, and my sister's like, oh, I could actually go like a wee sweet treat, you know. And I'm like, okay, well, why don't you go and get a sweet treat from like the McDonald's, and I'll meet you back at the bus, because we've only got 10 minutes and they're still making my coffee. So that was fine. So we split up, which we shouldn't have done, okay? So when me and my sister are travelling, like, we never split up, ever. And I don't know why we did this time, but we just did. Anyway, so she goes, I like watch her walk away, and then I get my coffee and I go back to the bus. I'm sitting on the bus, right? And it's maybe like 5 to 3, okay? So I'm on the bus, and I'm kind of like standing up watching for my sister to walk around the corner with her sweet treat and her coffee. And then it gets to like 3 minutes to, my sister's not there. And I'm kind of like, because one thing about these coaches and these buses is they do not wait. Okay, they will not wait for you. I don't know if you've ever got like a mega bus or like a National Express bus here. Like, if they stop for a break, they'll do like a head count, and they will wait for you. If you're a couple minutes late, they'll give you into trouble, but like the bus won't leave without you. Anyway, I know for a fact in America, they do not wait. They don't even head count. They will just leave you. So I was kind of like, and then it gets to like 2 minutes to, and the bus driver just closes the door. And I'm like, so I like jump up, and I'm just like, oh, sorry, like my sister isn't here yet. And then the bus driver, she doesn't even look up. She's like on her phone or something. And then she just goes, well, your sister's got 1 minute to get here. Right. I just go back to my seat, and I'm like still standing, and I'm like looking, and then it hits 3 o'clock, and I still can't see my sister, and she's not here, and the bus just starts driving. Oh, the way my heart sank. Okay, so the bus starts driving, and I like jump up, and I'm like begging her, and I'm like, she will be here, like, can you please just wait for her? And then as the woman is pulling out of the car park, my sister runs around the corner, because she can see the bus, and she's like running, and then like there's a guy on the bus that's like, oh, she's just there, like just stop. And I'm like, oh, she's right there. Like, my sister was like running alongside the bus, and the woman, like, you would think that she just couldn't hear me. She was just like this, driving out of the car park, and I'm just like, and at this point I'm like shouting, okay, I'm begging her. I'm like, just let her on, just stop the bus, just let her on. And like, usually I'm very chill, right? It takes a lot for me to raise my voice, very chill. But like, I couldn't, it was really weird. It was like, my priority was getting my sister back on this bus, and if I had to shout at this woman to stop the bus and embarrass myself, then that's what I had to do. Does that make sense? So I'm like, just let her on the bus, please, let her on the bus, please, 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 almost begging. She stops where the car park ends, and she's basically at a junction to get onto the main road, and this main road is like one big straight road through the desert for like hours, right? So really in the middle of nowhere. So she's like waiting there basically to get onto the main road, and she obviously stops. And I'm like, oh, thank God, like she's just going to open the door, which she could have done. She could have just opened the door, my sister would have got on and that would be fine. Anyway, I'm like, please, can you open the door? Please, please, please. And she just stops. And in my head, I'm like, oh, of course she's going to open the door because we're stopped. My sister's at the door, like, we're all good. And then she just pulls out onto the main roads and start driving. Oh my days. See, when I say I've never felt panic like it, like panic has never taken over my body like that. And I just start screaming, right? I'm standing there, but there's glass between me and her. And she's like, you would think that she didn't even know I was there. She was totally ignoring me, deadpan, just driving. And she starts driving and I just go into like full panic mode, right? My leg, I can't feel my leg shaking, but I was wearing actually these linen trousers, and I can feel the linen trousers banging off my leg, which makes me realise now that I was like, my legs were, I don't even know how I was still standing, my legs were shaking like a leaf, right? And she's obviously not opened the doors, so I'm now screaming, you have to let me off, right? I don't care if all our luggage is on this bus, like I don't care that, you know, whatever, like we have to be together. If you're not going to let her on, I need to get off. So I'm like screaming, I'm like, please, I'm like, let me off this bus, let me off this bus. And then my breathing starts like every time, like in between every word, like I'm like, potential panic attack. I think I've only ever had one panic attack or some, I don't even know, right? I'm not a doctor. I don't know what a panic attack is, but that to me was potentially the start of a panic attack, right? So my legs are shaking, I'm breathing less, and I'm like screaming, and I'm like, you have to let me off this bus, like you have to, because we're in the middle of nowhere, the phones don't work. Oh my God, right? And then everyone on the bus starts shouting, like, just let her off, like, let her on or let her off. Like, they were just like, stop the bus, right? My sister's running along the main road alongside this bus, and then she stops, like, at a red light. So I'm like, and my sister's still at the side of the bus, like on the main road, like, and then she just picks up the tannoy, the driver, and she's just like, first of all, none of you are going to tell me what I can and can't do on my own bus. Okay. And secondly, I have never had to turn this bus around because someone was late. And I was just like, okay, like, I'm sorry, I was so panicked. And then she circled back in the McDonald's drive-thru, so she did a full loop and let my sister on and was like shouting at my sister when she got on, and like, oh my God, I have never ever felt panic like it. Like, I was fully convinced that one, she couldn't hear me or see me, like, and two, that my sister was just like, we were going to be split up in the middle of nowhere, like when our phones don't work, and we were 3 hours away either side from like LA or Vegas, like civilization basically. Yeah, I just can't believe. And also, I'm just going to say it, her name was Frida, the bus driver. She was horrible, and no sympathy, no nothing. She could tell that we weren't from here, but she did not care. It was almost like she was trying to prove a point and like wanted us to suffer. Anyway, her name was Frida, and she worked for Greyhound. So Frida, your karma will come back to you, because that traumatised us. And usually I'm not one to name and shame, but that was awful.
Last year, over 130 million people took road trips. Just over 15,000 of them were never seen again.
2016, 28-year-old Ronnie Harris and 23-year-old Gwen Martin set off on a romantic trip along the legendary Route 66. They planned to spend the weekend in Santa Fe, but disappeared without a trace near the town of Tucumcari, New Mexico. Exactly 1 year later, in August 2017, while demolishing an abandoned roadside gas station, construction workers broke through the concrete floor of a utility room and made a horrific discovery. Buried about 2 feet deep under a thick layer of lime were the bodies of Ronnie and Gwen. What forensic experts found on the remains of the victims shocked even experienced sheriffs. Who turned a peaceful trip into a scene of brutal murder, and why the couple's last August 17, 2017, at 11:30 a.m., a team of builders began dismantling the interior partitions in a utility room that had previously served as a storage area for spare parts and lubricants. The room was approximately 10 by 12 feet in size. According to the testimony of the foreman, Thomas Reed, which he later provided to sheriff's deputies, the room was cluttered with old metal racks and empty canisters. When heavy equipment knocked down part of the wall and sunlight filled the dark space for the first time in a long time, the workers noticed a strange detail on the floor. In the far corner of the utility room, where a massive iron cabinet had previously stood, the concrete screed looked different. While the main floor was covered with a network of deep cracks and stains from old oil, a rectangular area measuring approximately 3 by 6 feet seemed too smooth and light, as if it had been poured much later than the rest of the floor. Reed recalled that at first they thought it was an old safe or a hiding place for tools, so he ordered one of the workers to break the concrete with a jackhammer. As soon as the heavy tool broke through the first layer of cement, about 4 inches thick, a heavy, sweet smell of decay rose from under the floor and instantly filled the cramped room. Work was stopped immediately. Realizing they had stumbled upon something horrific, the builders called the police. At 1:45 p.m., a team of forensic investigators and representatives from the Key County Sheriff's Office arrived on the scene. The exhumation lasted several hours under the scorching sun, which heated the air to 99 degrees Fahrenheit that day. At a depth of about 2 feet, directly under a thin layer of fresh concrete, investigators discovered 2 skeletonized bodies. They lay close together, covered with a thick layer of white powdery substance, quicklime. The criminals apparently expected that the chemical reaction would accelerate the decomposition of soft tissues and destroy the evidence, but due to the low moisture content of the soil under the concrete shell and the lack of oxygen, the process went differently. Some of the materials were preserved in a condition sufficient for initial identification. On one of the bodies, forensic experts found fragments of a light yellow summer dress with a distinctive floral print. This was the description of the clothing that Gwen Martin's mother gave in her missing person report a year ago. Nearby were the remains of men's clothing, jeans and fragments of a polo shirt which matched the size and type of fabric in Ronnie Harris's wardrobe. The scene investigation report noted that the bodies were in unnatural positions, indicating that they had been thrown into a dug pit in a hurry. But the thoroughness with which the concrete had been poured over them suggested cold calculation. Officers working at the scene noted a chilling detail. The gas station where the couple was found was only 100 yards from the main roadway of Route 66. This meant that for a whole year, thousands of cars, including police patrol cars, had passed by this spot, and volunteers may have walked just a few steps from the door of this utility room during the large-scale search in 2016. Baker said that he and Allen had spotted Ronnie Harris and Gwen Martin in Tulsa, near a shopping center where the couple had stopped a few hours before visiting the diner. Their attention was drawn to a silver SUV and the way Ronnie paid at the store, showing off a thick wad of bills. According to Baker, they realized that the travelers had a lot of easy money. The guys decided to follow them at a distance, waiting for the moment when the road would be empty and mobile reception would be weak. According to Baker's reconstruction of events, they caught up with the couple in a deserted area near Clinton. Allen, who was behind the wheel, faked a breakdown, forcing Ronnie to stop to help. It was supposed to be just a robbery, as Dillon claimed. However, Ronnie Harris, despite being threatened with a weapon, began to actively resist, trying to protect his fiancée. As a result of a brief struggle, the architect was neutralized with a blow from the butt of a rifle, and Gwen, who tried to call for help, received a fatal blow to the head from Allen. Baker confirmed that it was Riley Allen who decided not to leave the bodies on the side of the road, but to transport them to an abandoned gas station where he had once worked as a handyman and knew about a hidden room under the floor. When they arrived at the location, Ronnie Harris regained consciousness. According to Baker, what happened next turned into a nightmare that he couldn't stop. He told investigators that the torture was entirely Allen's idea. Riley, he said, wanted to have some fun and find out the PINs for all of the couple's bank cards. Baker described how Allen methodically tortured Ronnie for several hours using tools found in the utility room. Ronnie held out until the end, refusing to talk, which only increased Allen's rage. Dillon claimed that he was just standing guard and helping to mix concrete when it was all over, but his testimony showed that he was fully aware of every detail of the crime.
Did you know that the Works Public Administration built a string of these pedestrian underpass tunnels all across Route 66? This one is in Sayre, Oklahoma, but you could still find them scattered all along the historic highway. When Route 66 was first built, it cut straight through many downtowns, making it tough for pedestrians to cross. At the highway's busiest, there often wasn't a long enough break in traffic to safely pass, so engineers built these underpasses to give school children and residents a safe way to cross without adding more stop signs or lights. Today, most of these tunnels sit abandoned or closed off as relics of another era, but this one is special because it serves as a storm shelter and remains open for the public to walk through. The tunnels in Chelsea, Oklahoma is probably the most well known because of its famous mural, and I'll admit it was a bit nerve-wracking to walk down here, but it's amazing to think about how vital this passage once was when Route 66 was at its peak.
In July 2013, in northern Oklahoma, fishermen noticed the roof of a car underwater in a shallow artificial reservoir. The drought had been going on for several months, and the water level had dropped several meters, exposing shallow water on the eastern shore. When the car was pulled ashore, 2 bodies were found inside. They were in the front seats, secured with heavy chains, the windows rolled up, the doors locked. A few days later, confirmation came from rental databases and missing persons archives. The minivan turned out to be a rented Chrysler Voyager, the very same one in which, at the end of the summer of 1999, a German couple drove away on the legendary Route 66, disappearing after leaving a roadside motel in Oklahoma. Death was caused by drowning, which, according to experts, took between 20 and 30 minutes, consistent with the position of the bodies and the technical condition of the interior. Later, among the documents in the glove compartment, a piece of paper was found with a short note written in a woman's hand, indicating the role of the motel owner, who allegedly promised a short trip to the Grand Canyon and brought them to this shore, after which the car ended up in the water. But years had passed before this discovery, and to understand where the road ended, we need to go back to the beginning of the trip and the last confirmed actions of the couple. Their names were Klaus Weber and Monica Weber. Both were German citizens. Both were 28 years old. They got married a few months before the trip, chose a route through the southwestern United States for their honeymoon, wanted to visit the historic sites of Route 66, see the canyons, and drive to the ocean. The starting point was Dallas. On August 23rd, they landed at the international airport, passed through passport control, picked up their luggage, and by midday were at the car rental office. There they rented a burgundy Chrysler Voyager. They entered their international driver's license information, contact numbers, and a 2-week rental period into the contract. They had 2 large backpacks, 1 medium-sized suitcase, a flat bag for documents, and a camera with a strap. The rental agent offered them a map with routes, marked several places for overnight stays and gas stations, suitable for travelers heading west. The first day passed without incident. They left the city around noon, sticking to major roads so they could get to the historic part of the route without delays. In the evening, they stopped at an inexpensive motel on the border of Texas and Oklahoma. They paid cash for 1 night and asked for a room with parking right outside the door. The conversation with the manager was short, without unnecessary questions. In the morning, they ate hot waffles at a roadside diner and took coffee to go. The waitress remembered their accent and the fact that they asked where exactly to turn off onto the old highway, so as not to end up on the modern highway, because they wanted to drive slower and look at the old gas stations and signs. They left the motel early. The sun was just rising, and the air was already warm. At noon, they stopped at a gas station near a small town, filled up the tank, and bought water and ice. The cashier noted that the man checked the tire pressure, while the woman chose a map of the state showing points of interest for tourists. These purchases were included in the receipt, and the amount and time were saved in a copy, which later came in handy for establishing the date and route of travel. The route then took them along sections where Route 66 runs parallel to the modern highway. Traffic was moderate, The weather was hot, and the sky was clear. Upon entering Oklahoma, they slowed down at one of the roadside rest areas and took several photos in front of an old sign for an abandoned station. This was later determined from the photos on the film developed from the camera found in their belongings. The frames were marked with dates that the camera automatically stamped on the edges of the roll, and the timeline coincided with the day of their last overnight stay. Towards evening, they reached a small motel off the main road. The name was simple, with several identical rooms, an office with one window, and a parking lot with concrete wheel stops. The owner was there and personally registered the guests. He asked for their ID to record in the log, accepted payment for one night, and gave them the key to room 6. He noted the make and color of their car in the log, along with their approximate arrival time and expected departure time in the morning. The room was standard: 2 beds, a small refrigerator, a microwave, a table lamp, and a bathroom with a shower. From the window, you could see the parking lot, where 3 other cars were parked that evening: an old sedan with local license plates, a work van, and a pickup truck. The neighbors in the other rooms did not attract attention. According to the records, they were passing workers staying for one night. In the evening, Monica called her parents from a payphone near the motel office. The conversation was brief. She said they were fine, that the road was smooth, and that tomorrow they planned to leave even earlier than usual and cover a long stretch to the west so they could reach the New Mexico border by the next night. Her parents asked about the weather and how she was feeling. She replied that it was hot, but everything was going according to plan. After the call, they returned to their room, closed the door, and began packing for their departure in the morning. The morning was dry and clear. According to the owner, he came out to the office around 7:30 a.m. and saw the couple putting their backpacks in the trunk. He claimed that he exchanged a few words with them, showed them the exit from the parking lot, and pointed them west toward the intersection where they could return to the historic route. According to him, they waved to him and got into the car at that moment. There were no neighbors in the parking lot or strangers nearby at that time. The cleaning lady who arrived later found the room empty, the trash can clean, the bed neatly made, and the key left on the counter or in a special box by the office door, as was customary there. No forgotten items were found. A road map with pen marks was left on the table overnight. After departure, it remained in the car and was later retrieved along with the other items. From this point on, the confirmed contacts end. There were no further payments made with bank cards, as they preferred cash. There were no calls home that day, which in itself was not unusual, as they did not call every day. They were not remembered at gas stations along the next section of the route, and camera recordings, if any, from the checkout areas had not been preserved by the time the search began. Their names did not appear in the logs of nearby motels in the following days. The rental company expected the car to be returned on time, but the renter did not show up. Employees then spent several days trying to call the contacts in the United States provided at the time of rental, but received no answer. They then contacted the foreign number provided, which belonged to the parents. Then the first report was made to the local authorities that the car had not been returned and the renters were not responding. By this time, more than a week had passed since the couple left the roadside motel. In Germany, concerned relatives documented the last phone calls and forwarded copies of emails discussing the route. These emails showed that after spending the night in Oklahoma, they intended to drive west as far as possible without stopping, guided by daylight and fatigue. As a rule, Klaus preferred to stop for the night while it was still light, so that he could take his time choosing a place and park the car next to the door of the room. Among the habits that later helped to reconstruct the details were Monica's notes in a small notebook, where she recorded approximate expenses for gas, food, and lodging, as well as brief notes about the places where they stopped to take pictures. Last entry in the notebook was made the evening before their disappearance, mentioning a short stop at an old sign in the heat, which made them decide to go to bed earlier than usual. The surroundings on the stretch of road they were to travel in the morning were easy to navigate, but treacherous in terms of secluded turnoffs. Along the route, there were sections with dirt roads leading to private plots and to the water. In summer, those roads were deserted, with only local fishermen and utility workers occasionally using them. The areas were not fenced off with solid fences, and the entrance looked like a normal clearing. For a tourist unfamiliar with the area, such exits were no different from the short detours to scenic spots that are sometimes indicated in guidebooks. This explains why it is difficult to retrace the couple's route if they turned off the main road without witnesses. The last person to see them alive was the motel owner.
The Phantom Highway, the haunted secrets of Route 66 that refuse to die. They say the road remembers everyone who never made it home. Stretching over 2,400 miles across the heart of America, Route 66 is known as the Mother Road, a symbol of freedom, adventure, and endless horizons. But beneath the nostalgia of neon signs and dusty diners lies a darker truth whispered by truckers, travelers, and locals for decades. Because on certain lonely stretches of this historic highway, some passengers never left. Late at night, drivers have reported seeing a hitchhiker dressed in old-fashioned clothing, standing silently on the shoulder near abandoned towns. They wave for help, but when a kind motorist stops and offers a ride, the figure climbs in, only to vanish from the back seat moments later, leaving behind nothing but a sudden chill and the faint smell of dust and rain. In the desert regions of Arizona and New Mexico, travelers speak of ghost lights, floating just above the asphalt, strange glowing orbs that drift alongside cars before darting into the darkness. Some believe they are the spirits of those lost in tragic crashes along the highway during the dangerous early days of cross-country travel. One of the most chilling legends comes from the remote stretches near old roadside motels, where guests have reported hearing footsteps pacing outside their doors at 3 a.m., followed by slow, deliberate knocking. When the door is opened, no one is there. Truckers who drive the night shift tell stories of radios suddenly filling with static, then faint voices whispering for help, voices that disappear the moment they try to respond. Others describe seeing phantom cars in their mirrors, headlights blazing, only for the vehicles to vanish when they pull over. Some say the highway itself is haunted by the memories of the thousands who traveled it during the Great Depression, chasing hope across the country. Not all of them survived the journey, and according to legend, their spirits still roam the asphalt, forever searching for a destination they never reached. So if you ever find yourself driving down Route 66 after midnight, and you notice a lone figure standing by the roadside, you might want to keep driving, because on this road, not every traveler is alive.
Phantom Hitchhiker is said to haunt this lonely stretch of Route 66. For nearly a century, drivers between Oklahoma City and El Reno have reported seeing a hopeful traveler on the roadside, who, depending on who you ask, either vanishes as they approach or gets into the car before disappearing just before the destination. And stories like this exist all over the world, but they've become especially common along the Mother Road. So is there something about this legendary highway that makes it uniquely susceptible to urban legends, or could there actually be a ghostly voyager looking for company? To find out, we took a drive down Route 66 to investigate for ourselves. You wouldn't see another person until you got to like El Reno proper.
Yeah. And even been back then, it's still not.
Oh my God. Hold up. Did you see that?
Yeah. What the was that?
Okay, I'm turning around.
Yeah, I'm into it.
It's one of my favorite places to stop along Route 66. 6th Street Antique Mall?
Yes.
So, I'm guessing this is a building with some history.
Yes, very much so. It's been here 101 years now. Now, I don't know exactly what happened. That was early 20s. We still have one guest from then. He does inventory every night.
What do you mean?
There's a guy that goes back and forth over here. He's got a clipboard thing, and he's just checking things off. He never interferes with anybody. He just
Have you seen
wanders
it?
back here. I can get the idea that he's there. I know when he's there. It's kind of...
I've heard that a lot of times with...
In the real paranormal world, it's not like you actually really see these people. It's just for those of us that are sensitives, we know when they're there. He's just sort of a residual, and about 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, he's wandering around.
Right around here.
Just right back there on that side, and it's just like he shows up and then goes away, walks just across there, and he's gone.
This is one thing that we've been finding in doing this journey for the last 2 years, is it seems like it's almost like residual behaviors.
Now, I haven't had him in a long time, but back by the window back there, in the 30s, this building, around 35, we can't find the name of it, but we do know that it was a commercial cleaners. And the machines were all along that back wall back there, which is now an apartment, or the downstairs to the apartment. But very unhappy man. He'd lost his really super good job, and the only job he could find was in here doing the laundry, and something happened back there, and it concerns the machines. I can't get the full story, but he's unhappy.
And he's still here.
And he makes sure everyone feels unhappy when he's around. And we really don't, he's the only one that ever really kind of produces any kind of negative, any energy. He doesn't, and I've talked to him and I've told him it's time to move on.
Has he responded?
I haven't had so many people that come in and say that they felt something back here. So I believe he has.
Oh, I feel really uneasy back here.
Yeah. And it makes it hard sometimes. But
he sticks to this area.
Yeah, he sticks just to this area. The first time I really ever saw one visually was on my cameras right here.
Yeah, I got a strong feeling of that too.
Yeah. Right in here, there were like 8 or 9 family members hanging around in here. And on the camera, suddenly this huge orb just started pounding them from all directions. It would hit them, bounce up, hit them, kind of like a daggum beach ball. I told this one, I asked him, I don't know what upset you about them, about those people. I said, but it's okay. They're gone. They're not gonna bother you. And then that one up there, he was coming, I saw him like 4 or 5 times, different weeks.
If you've ever driven Route 66 through Victorville, you've probably seen it. A faded green neon sign glowing in the middle of the desert night. This is the Green Spot Motel, and they say one of its guests never checked out. Built in the 1940s, the Green Spot was once a bustling stop for road trippers, soldiers, and celebrities heading to Las Vegas. It was cozy, cheap, and full of stories, some that never made the papers. Local legend says that in the early 1960s, a woman checked into room 13 under a false name. She was traveling alone, and the next morning the maid found her dead. No ID, no car, no explanation, just the faint smell of perfume and a single green light flickering above the door. Ever since, guests have reported strange things in room 13. Knocks on the wall, radios turning on to old love songs, and a shadowy figure standing by the mirror before vanishing. Even the owners admit that the room gets colder than any other on the property. Some say she was running from someone, a jealous lover, maybe a crime gone wrong. Others think she's just waiting for the ride that never came. Truckers passing late at night have seen a woman in a green dress walking along the road near the motel, disappearing the moment they slow down. Today, the Green Spot still rents rooms, but few people stay in number 13. If you ever do, and you hear soft humming coming from the bathroom mirror, just remember, you're not the only one spending the night.
Don't forget to subscribe and like, and as always, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.